4 days of Cleveland Browns training camp is in the books. So we have some takeaways, some standouts, and some news and rumors coming from not Berea, but from West Virginia, where the Browns are conducting training camp to start things off at the Greenbrier Resort. But last night, let's start things off with Josina Anderson's tweet. They got Browns Twitter all sorts of worked up because she tweeted out, interesting to hear a team source lament the effect of wide receiver Marquise Goodwin's blood clots absence on the Browns offense in training camp. We are missing his impact on the field. What? We're only 4 days into training camp. The pads aren't even on, and Marquise Goodwin's impact is being missed. Amari Cooper's not even out there, for crying out loud, and we're not worried about that because it's not a serious injury for Cooper, which might be the case for Goodwin, but I think it's a little bit premature and a little bit early to say we are sorely missing Marquise Goodwin out there. The pads aren't on. There's no joint practices yet. The offense just yesterday started to go 11 on 11 against the defense. I don't really know how this early on you can tell Marquise Goodwin's absence has been sorely missed. I mean, don't get me wrong. Goodwin's speed is very important to this offense. When he comes onto the field, defenses have to respect his speed. They have to give him that extra yard or two. Safeties have to know to shade a little bit to his side of the field, and that opens things up for other wide receivers. But I think it's a bit early to go, well, the Browns need another wide receiver because without Goodwin, this ship is sinking. He's wide receiver 4. The guy hasn't even had more than 45 targets in a season over the last 4 games. He does a lot of great things for the team, and he's going to have an impact even if he's not getting receptions. But I think it's a bit of an overreaction to go, no Goodwin? Well, pack it up. The season's over. We have to go find another wide receiver if we want to be competitive. There are some recognizable free agent wide receivers out there. I saw Deshaun Jackson get some chatter. I think he's washed. I think he's not good anymore. He's definitely a burner, but it ain't 2011 anymore. I'm probably out on Deshaun Jackson. Julio Jones isn't going to stretch the field with his hamstrings anymore. T.Y. Hilton is interesting along with Sammy Watkins. Kenny Golladay sucks. Rashard Higgins, maybe a reunion, but he's not going to stretch the field like Marquise Goodwin. Anthony Miller has some speed, but he's always gotten his own way so far in his young NFL career. And N'Keal Harry, a former first-round pick, he also just kind of sucks. But he's an awesome athlete, so maybe the Browns would kick the tires on him. Sammy Watkins is interesting just because Cleveland added his cousin. I didn't even realize it at the time. The other day, right before training camp got underway. And when Watkins is healthy, like we know he can be a good wide receiver 3/4. Back in 2019, 673 yards with the Chiefs and 3 touchdowns. But since then, he's bounced around, former first-round pick. I'm not quite sure what he has left in the tank, and I'm not sure if the Browns are interested in going that deep veteran route. Another name that would be interesting for adding speed would be T.Y. Hilton, Colts legend. Last year, he played 3 games with the Cowboys after being a late-season addition. 7 grabs for 121 yards probably showed that maybe some teams made a mistake by not adding him in August, since 7 receptions for 121 yards in 3 games for a wide receiver 3/4. You stretch that out over full season. That's pretty good work right there. But I think the Browns are not in a spot where they must add a wide receiver after Goodwin's absence. But if you disagree, that's perfectly fine. Here at the Browns Report, we're all about two-way interaction. So let me know, should the Browns sign a wide receiver? Yes or no? I don't think they have to add one now because of Goodwin's injury. If we start getting into September and this Browns offense is still looking like they're missing a piece, fine. We can have that conversation then. But I don't think this is a conversation we need to have after 4 days of training. Like, let's give the current guys on the roster some runway to at least show the coaching staff you don't have to go external. We've got some guys on this team that could step up and fill this role. Now, the Browns are definitely going to monitor the waiver wire, and maybe they add a name like they did last year off the waiver wire. Jaelon Darden, right? Someone who's getting a lot of attention right now. He's doing very well in training camp. He's developing a connection with Deshaun Watson. And he's a track star. He was a punt return, kick return guy in North Texas throughout his collegiate career. He's yet to really catch on in the NFL. Came out with the Bucs, 8 grabs, 69 yards, nice. 3 touchdowns with Tom Brady. But Jaelon Darden is someone that could be your in-house replacement if Marquise Goodwin does miss some time. I have no idea of what the timetable could look like for Goodwin. Blood clots are a very scary thing. It could be ultimately a career-ending type of injury seems wrong, medical issue, or it could be something that with proper medication and treatment, it could be subsided and it could go away and he could be ready to go in September. I don't know. I'm not a cardiologist, or I guess whatever the ologist you need to be to study blood clots in the legs. But Jaelon Darden has definitely thrived so far at training camp. So without going to T.Y. Hilton or Deshaun Jackson, how about you look at the guy you have in your own backyard right now? The Cleveland Browns team staff writer, Anthony Poisal, he wrote about Jaelon Darden, and I thought you guys should see some of this. Jaelon Darden has been one of the more noticeable receivers early in camp. He's taken a handful of snaps with quarterback Deshaun Watson, although the Browns have rotated other non-starting receivers in with him as well. Darden, however, is worth monitoring throughout camp because of his speed, which has always intrigued the Browns and might intrigue them more due to the uncertainty of when wide receiver Marquise Goodwin might be able to rejoin the team. Darden also has return experience and has been working as both a kick and punt returner. Now, we'll talk more about this in just a moment, but first, a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's Browns Report is sponsored by Zbiotics. Let's face it, after y'all hit me with a bunch of super chats, I don't bounce back well the next day. But that is until I found Zbiotics. Zbiotics pre-alcohol probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Zbiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut where you need it most. Drink Zbiotics before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Now, you guys can see here that it comes in a pretty light and slim package. The bottles are not too big at all, so it makes it really easy to travel with if you're going to a bachelor or bachelorette party. Go to zbiotics.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use code CHATSPORTS at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription as well, so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. Zbiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you are ever unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. That's zbiotics.com/chatsports and use code CHATSPORTS at checkout for 15% off. Thank you to Zbiotics for sponsoring today's video. All of that information is in the description and the comments of today's episode. Switching gears here, let's talk about Deshaun Watson. Is Deshaun Watson back? Deshaun Watson's back. It's only been a couple of days in training camp. The pads aren't even on yet. But Deshaun Watson has carried over that really, good-looking play in OTAs and minicamp into the summer and now the fall because he has been an accurate passer so far through training camp. Terry Pluto from the Cleveland.com base wrote, just as was the case in the spring OTAs, Deshaun Watson's passing accuracy is extremely impressive. He has looked like the guy in Houston who completed 67% of his passes for the Texans. The Browns are banking on getting this Deshaun Watson back, right? The guy who led the passing in NFL in 2020 with 4,800 yards and completed 70% of his passes. Like, if you're going to throw for 4,800 yards, a couple of things have to be done. You have to be a good quarterback, and you have to throw the ball a lot. And if you're throwing the ball a lot, you likely increase your chances for missing some of your targets. But for Watson to throw for 4,800 yards and complete 70% of his throws, that's the guy Cleveland is banking on coming back into form, and the Browns all of a sudden being the ultimate sleeping giant in the AFC this season. Everyone always looks good in training camp. I will add, it's best shape of life season, but I'm in on Watson. Like, I am so far, that sounds weird. I am such a big believer and buyer, how about that, of Deshaun Watson 2023 bounce back season. He's likely not going to win the Comeback Player of the Year award. We know that there is some politics that can go into that. And, well, Watson's checkered character, at least allegations-wise, from the last 2 years, we'll probably take him out of the running for that if we're being honest. But I do think Watson is going to return to that Pro Bowl level form. The issue is, like, we all want to talk, will Watson get back to top 10 status? Will he be a top 10 quarterback? There are a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL, right? The fact that guys like Dak Prescott or not Jalen Hurd, because people haven't, I'm not very big on Jalen Hurd, but Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins, who put up good numbers, are fringe top 10, kind of goes to show how good the quarterback position right now is in the NFL. But I have a hypothetical situation for everyone watching right now. If these are Deshaun Watson stats for 2023, would you lock that in, right? Would you take that deal, or would you stick a middle finger to the banker? Deal or no deal on if I told you you could lock yourself in for a Deshaun Watson 2023 campaign where he throws for 3,700 yards, he completes 65% of his passes, 24 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. Would you be greedy and think he could do a bit better? Or would you lock these numbers in knowing that would be really good quarterback play? And with a good defense and Nick Chubb, this looks like a playoff team if that's the quarterback play we're getting. Personally, no deal, right? Still got the million out there. Still got the 4,000 yards. No deal for me. I think Watson could be better than these numbers here. Some other takeaways and standouts from training camp. Tom Withers tweeted out, kept close eye on Browns receivers while in West Virginia. Very impressed with Elijah Moore, who is fast, as well as rookie Cedric Tillman, who doesn't look like a rookie. I'm telling you guys, I know that the future at wide receiver is a bit uncertain with DPJ a free agent and Amari Cooper getting older and a big cap hit. But Elijah Moore and Cedric Tillman, these are the future at the wide receiver position. I am all the way in on these two players. Elijah Moore has been an early standout at training camp. He has looked good. He has looked the part. He has looked like the player the Jets thought they were getting at pick 34 until Zach Wilson and LaFleur completely botched their offense the last two seasons. The Browns have gotten creative in terms of lining up Elijah Moore. You've seen him in various spots, but the word on the street is they've had him outside primarily. They've also had him in the slot a little bit, in the backfield on occasion, but he is a wide receiver. So just because we're hearing rumblings of, Elijah Moore in the backfield, no, he's not some gadget player. He's not some gimmick. He is going to be a top 3 receiver on this team. He will compete after Amari Cooper for that number 2 wide receiver spot. Now, Kevin Stefanski has spoken to the media throughout training camp, and he raved about Elijah Moore, at least as far as Stefanski goes when it comes to raving about players. Speaking of taking your craft seriously, he practices hard. His practice tempo, how he is in walkthroughs, he takes it very seriously, which is great. It's fun to be around a guy that really works at it. Kevin Stefanski never really, pipes up players too much, so when he does, it definitely says something. All I'm going to say, if you haven't gotten the message by now, is buy your Elijah Moore stock now. I don't really do fantasy football on the show, but I do want to toss this your way. Elijah Moore is going as wide receiver 47 in fantasy football drafts. Something tells me that number 2 wide receiver for a Deshaun Watson offense that's going to bounce back this year might put up better numbers than the 46th wide receiver in fantasy football. So Elijah Moore, I'm telling you, if I'm wrong, I'll own it, but I am all the way in on Elijah Moore having that breakout season, potential 1,000-yard guy. Before we get on to the rest of the training camp takeaways, if you want to support the channel, if you like the content we are doing here, or you just like free Cleveland Browns content, like the video. That goes a super long way. I'm sure most of you understand how YouTube works. Comment down below. It's always good to go back and forth with you guys. And also, subscribe. That's the best way to support the channel. The more subscribers we get here, the more studio space Chat Sports gives me, which means more content for everyone back home. Now, let's talk about the defense for a moment here, because is Grant Delpit going to give us a breakout season? I think so. Delpit has looked very good at training camp so far. He's had some past breakups. He looks like someone who could be in line for maybe a mid-season contract extension if he gets off to a hot start in the 2023 campaign. Now, we missed Delpit his first season due to an Achilles injury, and so then his really first season, but his second year in the NFL, was so-so. And then last year, well, when you look at what Delpit did last season, not a fantastic start. PFF graded him 58.5 overall through the first 8 weeks of the season. But after the bye, you saw an improvement. right? The PFF grade jumped 5 spots. Yards allowed went down. Touchdowns allowed went down. He added 2 more interceptions. Delpit ended the year on a really high note, and I am all in on him bringing that same level of confidence and that high play into 2023. A UDFA sleeper, by the way, I just want to bring to your attention to monitor is Tanner McAllister. Remember, Cleveland did not add a safety in the draft, but afterwards they signed 2 Buckeyes. I mean, there was really just a direct line from Columbus to Cleveland. But you had Ronnie Hickman and Tanner McAllister come over, and the word on the street is McAllister has looked good as a UDFA so far, which could just be a practice squad spot for him, or maybe he'll battle with DeAnthony Bell for that last 4th safety spot. Bell, a UDFA last year, made the 53-man roster, so the trend could continue this year. Now, as for the rest of the defense, the Browns' offense has been the biggest storyline through the entire offseason so far, but Jim Schwartz's crew picked up a win during day 4 of camp. They did some red zone drills, and by and large, the defense came away as the big winner. No, this does not mean we have to panic about the offense. It just means the defense picked some passes away from Kellen Mond and DTR and Josh Dobbs. But at the end of the day, you want to see the defense get some wins. You want to see the defense build some confidence because Lord knows they need it. They need to bounce back from last season, and they got to start stacking some good days and bring that type of swagger into this upcoming year. As for Jakeem Grant, getting back to the offensive side of things, he has looked good so far, and the best part is we've actually seen him play. Remember, the 30-year-old return man suffered a torn Achilles almost a year ago to the day. He suffered it in early August. So to see him come back and not start on the PUP list was a very positive sign. We know Achilles can be a tough injury to bounce back from. But he's also gotten some work in as kick and punt returner, which is great because that is a vacant spot on this Cleveland Browns roster. Here's what that team writer had to say about Jakeem Grant. Jakeem Grant Sr., however, participated in practice and took his most reps since he suffered a torn Achilles last year in training camp. He appears to have the same speed and shiftiness that made him a Pro Bowler in 2021 and was practicing in both kick and punt return drills. Bubba Ventrone, the new special teams coordinator for Cleveland, really has 3 jobs. It is fix Cade York. That is job number 1. Get Cade York better at home and more consistent. Job number 2 is find a return man, something that Coach Prefer struggled with last year. It was a revolving door at kick and punt return. Losing Jakeem Grant stung, no doubt about it, but this is a job for Ventrone to nail down that spot. And his third responsibility is go see responsibility number 1, right? Cade York has to be the guy this year. Cade York cannot have a bad year, otherwise he is done in Cleveland, and that would suck because I was just really starting to get behind the nickname Yorker for all of his walk-off kicks. Now, some other NFL news I thought you guys might find interesting. After Justin Herbert became the highest paid quarterback in the NFL on average per year, it begs the question, so if Joe Burrow's next, surely he'll get more than Herbert because he's actually won playoff games. So is he going to get $53 million a season, right? What is Joe Burrow in line to get from the from the Bengals after Herbert reset the market? The other issue that the Bengals are going to run into is not just paying Joe Burrow. They also got to pay Jamar Chase, and they claim T. Higgins. I'm calling cap on that. There's no way they are going to be able to afford Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins because Joe Burrow is going to become the highest paid quarterback. Now, maybe they make it like a Patrick Mahomes 10-year deal to try and spread it out a little bit longer, but Jamar Chase, he's going to want, if they let Justin Jefferson get a contract done before Chase, that's just going to drive the price up a little bit. And T. Higgins won't become number 1, but he's going to want to become top 10 and probably closer to 5 than 10, right in that $25 million range. I think he'll find some money as the cap continues to go up. At the end of the day, the broke boy Bengals are screwed. They had to add a sponsor to the stadium just to try and help pay future bills. I don't know what Cincinnati's going to do. Of course, they'll figure it out with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. But T. Higgins, most other teams would find a way to probably get that done. The Bengals aren't. There's just something to when you give out that much guaranteed money, which they will, to Burrow and Chase, you have to have that type of cash on hand. A lot of ownership does, like the Haslams. That's why they could swing $230 million at the drop of a hat. Bengals, not so much. Those broke boys down in Cincinnati, they are in for a world of hurting when they've got to pay all these players. I think that's why they might be dragging their feet a little bit, hoping to get some sympathy from Burrow or Chase going, hey, can't give you all that much money, but can we add some extra years on the contract or something like that? And I don't know. I think you're going to see a T. Higgins trade after this season is over. To wrap up the show, let's pick a card. I forgot to mention, by the way, at the very start of the show, how about a little round of applause for me? I think it's my first time not wearing a polo on a Cleveland Browns report. So had to break out my new Dog Pound t-shirt. Finally came in the mail. But today's producer is one of the new guys here at Chat Sports, Jake Chipper. Chipper from Philadelphia, went to Clemson, so I'm sure you're going to be a closet Browns fan this year. Pull for Deshaun Watson a little bit. Am I right? There you go. There you go. Love to see it. That's music to Brown Tigers' ears. What card do you want to go with? Oh, you're muted. Let's try it again.
Well, there we go.
So that's his first day producing, and we see how that goes. So, yeah, he's pulling for Deshaun Watson. That's what he said when he was muted. What card do you want to go with?
I'm feeling lucky today. I think I'm going to go with a 3 of clubs.
3 of clubs? Okay. Score's 1-1. This would give the producers the lead. I'm going to go with the King of Spades. 5 of Spades. 5 of Spades. That will do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you guys later.